Shalom, first and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory be to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash. And I want to say double honors to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone that rule well. Blessings to the hopeful elect out there, listening and learning and teaching this word in sincerity and truth and a sincere hope so we may edify and feed the lambs of Yahweh Shai, especially in these last days. This is from Full Spectrum Survival, Red Alert, National Security, emergency as protests erupt across America. Pam Bondi weighs in, SOS. Just came across this video as I was scrolling down on my daily feed, and as you can see the thumbnail, Civil War 2.0, unrest in America. We're living in a time of great civil unrest, great divide. It's biblical prophecy playing out at its finest. And I'm going to play you a little bit of this clip, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some scriptures to prove why why we're experiencing, the civil unrest that we're experiencing now, and how it's going to get even worse. See, what they're doing is when I say they, I'm talking about the wicked elite of the nation of Edom. They're stirring the pot of the divide and chaos, and spreading chaos and labeling people domestic teas. And so on and so forth, having their governmental officials attacked in broad daylight or at night, being filmed, being televised, put on social media platforms to stir up the pot. Like you just had this thing with Charlie Kirk, which is a psyop. You had this woman get her face blown in, which was a psyop. This Rachel Good, was it? Oh no, Renee Good. Which they're saying, which is a setup, it's a psyop, it's a psychological operation that they're rolling out because we told you about the divide that they're going to create even more and more. Started with the borders, all right, and, then it went on to the Tren de Aragua and the criminal gangs that were pretty much, being given a free pass to stay in these swanky hotels, which was causing more of a divide, more of hatred between the people in the cities. In these major cities that we're seeing these immigrants getting put up and getting rolled in on these coaches, these buses, and being allowed to stay in these swanky hotels while you had Americans out there shivering in the cold on the streets. Take care of our people first, basically. All these patriotic, proud boy individuals, red-blooded Americans that are hating what's going on around them. And now you got this whole ICE, the thing with ICE where they're pretty much turning up the faucet in terms of the force that they're applying on these people, these individuals in these cities. Listen to what my man goes into here. In fact, I'm gonna start with this and take it back.
Side of our country. I want you to listen here as the Attorney General Pam Bondi explains what is happening.
So this is the Attorney General Pam Bondi. Hear this.
With just a few clicks, you're ripping real graded cards digitally.
Era of political violence. Assassins have tried to murder President Trump twice and tried to kill Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh. In Minnesota, legislators and even children attending Mass were gunned down in cold blood in 2 separate incidents. And an assassin targeted and murdered our friend Charlie Kirk. A sniper shot 3 people at a Texas ICE. 200 violent rioters were at a Chicago ICE facility chanting, "Arrest ICE, shoot ICE."
You see how things are becoming more increasingly violent, and ultimately that's happening because of biblical prophecy. I'm going to get my first precept in let me go to Revelation 12:12, and it reads, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time." So these devils, they know that they got a short time. Okay, and that's why they're turning things up. They're moving very, very quick now in terms of wanting to establish the new world order by manipulating chaos or chaotic scenarios that they push out into these cities that they can spin to their advantage. All right, and ultimately the goal is to have these people chipped, okay, in these cities, because they're trying to play the Most High. All right, see, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. All right, all these protests and these, civil uproars and unrest and that and whatever, that's going back to biblical prophecy at the same time. Okay, we have it in 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, Verse 1, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time where the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So we're at that time now. All right, and we have to be very diligent in how we measure the time. Okay, see what's going on around us. Like the Apostle Paul said, see that you walk circumspectly as wise and not as fools, redeeming the time because the days are evil. All right, so when you see part of these signs pass, which the Lord said he told us before, then shalt thou understand that is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And you're going to see more UFO sightings, so-called UAP sightings, unidentified aerial phenomena, okay, which are the chariots of Israel. Yahweh Shai is going to be coming on the gigantic version of those chariots, and he's going to beam up his elect, okay, into that fathership, which I'm going to do a lesson on that this week, Lord willing. Okay, because, Yahweh Shai, when he left 2,000 years ago, he left in a ship. All right, the scriptures tell you that, a cloud received him out of their sight. Whose sight? The disciples, and the two angels had to pretty much say, look, why are you gazing into heaven? The same way he went is the same way he's coming back. So get ready to see more, all right, signs in the heavens, the chariots, the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. Okay, it says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world. Uproars of the people in the world. All right, so we're experiencing this now. Listen to what Pam Bondi is saying here. The Attorney General. Listen now.
Even children attending Mass were gunned down in cold blood in 2 separate incidents. And an assassin targeted and murdered our friend Charlie Kirk.
Playing at the heartstrings, of the right-wingers. Okay, creating opposition with the left-wingers. The right versus the left, and which pretty much, or the Republicans, the Democrats, two horns are the same beast. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you vote for one or the other, because it's the two horns that stem from the same beast. Revelation 13 and 11, right? It's the beast from the earth, and behold, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now, these 2 horns represent your two-party system, your Republicans and your Democrats, all right? And even back in the time of Rome, you had something called the plebeians, all right, which was for the common folk, and then you had the patricians, which was for the upper class. All right, it's the same thing today. You got the Republicans and the Democrats, all right, the left and the right, all right, and it says like a lamb, and the nature of a lamb is to be docile, gentle, all right, but he spake as a dragon. The nature of a dragon is to be fierce, to be cruel. All right, and the scriptures speak about the cruel Lord. Okay, the scriptures speak about the cruel Lord. Right, Isaiah 19. This is what this whole chapter is. Let me go ahead and read it from the top, because it touches on Yahweh Shai coming back on that cloud as well. And it says a message to Egypt. All right, it says the burden of Egypt, behold. All right, and the modern day Egypt is what? America. That's why they have the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. All right, we keep telling you that with the all-seeing eye floating on the top of the pyramid. All right, and what does it read at the bottom of the pyramid? Novus Order Seclorum, which means new order of the ages, or the new world order. That's what they're trying to establish here. And the average person out here walking around, finishing a hard day's work, coming home, sitting down, watching Netflix all day, don't know what we know. We have the eye salve to be able to see and to decode, all right, what's really going on around us in these last days, man. The scripture says that wisdom and knowledge shall keep us stable in these last days. It says, behold, the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come in. And that swift cloud, right, is when Yahweh Shai actually eventually shows himself and enters this place. And we're seeing the signs of that time coming closer. That's why the scripture says in Romans 13 and 11, that now is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. All right, so our salvation is close, and we ain't going to have to wait too much longer. And all this civil unrest that we're witnessing right now, okay, that people are running around like headless chickens in these different cities or different states over there in Babylon and that, all this divide that's being created, these are all the signs of the times. All right, because Yahweh Shai is about to ride in on that swift cloud. It says, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. So Yahweh Shai is going to take down all of these false idols, man. Okay? All of these obelisks, these churches, all right, these mosques, all right, all of these false idols are going to be ripped down when Yahweh Shai comes back. Said that they're going to be moved at his presence. And the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. Right? And the Hebrew word for heart is lab, right? Which is the mind. The people's minds, the people are going to be losing it when Yahweh Shai gets here, man. That's why the scripture says, let's get Matthew 24. And 30, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. Right? And when you're in a state of mourning, you ain't happy, man. You're in a state of anguish. Okay? In fact, let's look up that word mourn in the Greek. Let's see what that says. Tribes of the earth shall mourn. There you go, kopto. All right, which means to beat one's breast with grief, I believe. Yep. To cut, strike, smite, to cut from, cut off, to beat one's breast for grief. All right, when someone's in a state of grief, all right, when they're in a state of mourning, grief means what? Intense sorrow, especially caused by someone's death. And the scripture says that the dead shall be cast out as dung, or the slain of the Lord shall be many. Yahweh Shai is going to bring people a lot of grief through death. It says trouble or annoyance, man. All right, these people are not ready for what Yahweh Shai is about to do. So all the tribes of the earth shall mourn. They shall be in a troublesome scenario. And they shall see the Son of Man coming. And that's why the scripture says, woe to you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? It says, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And I ain't talking about, plumes of smoke, okay? Puffs of cloud, like the actual clouds. The clouds are like cloaking devices, if you will. The chariots can disguise themselves in the clouds. Okay? Like the scriptures speak about, even going back to the time of Egypt, which we went into that at the camp. The elder Ramah was going into, mentioning the cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. And that's how we got led up out of Egypt. And there was a chariot always there that was following us out of Egypt, all right, leading us out of Egypt. And it was a cloud by day and it was a pillar of fire by night to give us light to see. Okay. And in fact, let's go into, let me see. Okay, let's do this. Let's do go into let me see if this, because there's one in Corinthians as well, which the Apostle Paul mentioned. I believe it's in a Corinthians somewhere. 1 Corinthians 10. Let's see if it's there. 1 Corinthians 10. All right, so we're coming to the time of great miracles, man, where the Lord is going to really show us, his strength. Okay? Through his son, Yahweh Shai, man. Yahweh Shai, which is a nomen omen, which means he delivers, or he the deliverer, and he's coming to deliver the elect of the nation of Israel. This is 1 Corinthians 10:1. It says, moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud. This is the same chariot, all right, the cloud or a chariot, heavenly vehicle that Yahweh Shai is going to use to beam us up out of the modern day Egypt and save the elect, right? It says, and all passed through the sea. All right. Let's read it in the NLT. I don't want you to forget, dear brothers and sisters, about our ancestors in the wilderness long ago. all of them were guided by a cloud that moved ahead of them, and all of them walked through the sea on dry ground, okay, which was the extension of the Red Sea, the Gulf of Suez. That's where we went through, on dry ground. All right, now when you go into this word cloud, which we always go into this, it's very, very edifying, and it's a spiritual point. All right, Nephili, it says a cloud, used of the cloud which led the Israelites in the wilderness. Used of the cloud which led the Israelites in the wilderness. So who's the chosen people of the Most High? The Israelites, man. You know, and ain't nothing new under the sun. The Lord ain't gonna, change his mind, flip the script, and then suddenly start saving Edomites and Israelites in these last days. This is 1 Chronicles 17 and 21. And what one nation in the earth is like thy people Israel, whom Yahweh went to redeem to be his own people, to make thee a name of greatness and terribleness by driving out nations from before thy people, whom thou hast redeemed out of Egypt. And how did he do it? With that cloud. Okay. He raised up Moses, and pretty much we walked on dry ground, man, through the Gulf of Suez. It says, for thy people Israel didst thou make thine own people forever, and thou, O Lord Yahweh, becamest their God. All right. So to be worshipping false idols, man, is completely off. And that's why the scripture said that the Lord is gonna, the idols of Egypt are going to be moved at his presence, because according to the law, we're not supposed to have no false idols. Okay. So let's go back to Matthew 24 and 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man, which is Yahweh Shai, coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Okay, so that's what he's going to do, right? Back into Isaiah 19, it says, verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians, let's go back to the heart of the lesson now, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And that's why we're witnessing these signs at the times. Civil War 2.0. That's why they made the movie Civil War. Okay, listen.
A sniper shot 3 people at a Texas ICE. 200 violent rioters were at a Chicago ICE facility chanting, arrest ICE, shoot ICE.
And what does the scripture say? Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. All right, people are calling for the destruction of ICE. Listen. You stupid adverts, man.
I'll have 1,000 pounds.
Attack. And when that happens, I fully believe that the Trump administration is prepared in every way to roll out martial law inside of our country.
You hear that? Right? Martial law. As the spirit, Babylon is split, Babylon is finished. The brother Shakar just put up a video going into exactly what I'm going into. The split, the divide.
Let it slide.
You can't tell me that that's not the spirit.
Our National Guard. Now, as soon as we see more attacks on the National Guard, what happened before was kind of a one-off. They let it slide. They need more gas in the engine.
They need more gas in the engine. They need more violence. They need more of a divide. They need more anger, to create more of that divide. And that divide is here. All right. And the scripture says, no kingdom divided shall be able to stand. It's coming, man. The Egyptian against the Egyptian.
If you put just a drop in, it's not going to do anything. They need attack after attack after attack.
And why do they need attack after attack after attack? Because it's going to be able to justify the violence that they're going to come down with. Because these people, these elites, man, they're violent. All right. In fact, America was established off of violence, was it not? The scripture says, woe unto them that buildeth a town with blood and establisheth a city by iniquity. All right. The scriptures call America the bloody city.
When that happens, I fully believe that the Trump administration is prepared in every way to roll out martial law inside of our country. And maybe it's necessary.
Martial law, that's pretty much curfews, from civil unrest. That's one, you ain't gonna be able to leave your house after a certain time, and so on and so forth. So let's finish off this verse. And everyone, it says, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. Right? So you're gonna have state against state, just like they showed you in the movie Civil War. City against city, kingdom against kingdom. And you had that Edomite with the red shades on, dressed in military fatigue, and he was pretty much about to shoot the other geezer, and then he goes to him, "Oh look, I'm an American," and then he said, "What kind of American?" And then you just saw a pile of dead bodies in a ditch, just on top of each other in the movie, man, in the movie Civil War. So when the scripture says the dead shall be cast out as dung, what do you think that they're showing you in that movie? All right. So let's go back to this clip here.
Necessary. You guys let me know down in the comments. Here is Ursula von der Leyen. She's discussing the new battle lines being drawn for a brand new 2026 world order.
This summer showed us that there's simply no room or no time for nostalgia. Battle lines for a new world order based on power.
Yeah, that battle lines for a new world order. And that new world order that they want is total control. People to be chipped in these cities. That's the new world order, man. All right, Handmaid's Tale, Equilibrium, movies like that, Fahrenheit 451, Hunger Games, Divergent, movies that show you, when they split these districts into certain zones, or In Time with Justin Timberlake, all these movies that show you when Esau's got his new world order off the ground, and he's living fat in certain areas, in certain zones, where you got the people starving and living on next to nothing in other towns and that. Because that's total control. You got people by the balls when you put the chip in them, because you can just turn off their chip. You can do what you want. Now you've got a world full of slaves at your beck and call that will do anything that you want because you've got control over their body. And Esau's trying to play the Most High by doing that. All right, so we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, like the scriptures say. When they talk about a new world order, it ain't just words that they're throwing out there. These words have meaning. All right, and they want to push that chip. They want total control, just like Aaron Russo said to Alex Jones. Or Alex Jones replied to Aaron Russo when he was telling them about the chip, and Alex Jones said total control, and it's exactly that, total control. What does the scripture say? A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. All right. 2 Esdras 15 and 17. A man shall desire to go in from let's start from 14. It says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." Right? So this one people standing up to fight against another with swords in their hands, what do you think that's going to come in the form of? Civil war. Okay.
Being drawn right now. So yes, Europe must fight for its place in the world, in which many major powers are either ambivalent or openly hostile to Europe. A world of imperial ambitions and imperial wars. A world.
To mention, you got the European nations, you got certain members of the European nations that are just not happy at all with America. All right, and they're pretty much, using Trump, these elites using Trump now to talk about going into Greenland. Okay, and how they're looking to respond to that. You got Germany that's not happy with it, France that's not happy with it. So this kingdom is completely divided. The scriptures speak about, in the statue in Daniel, the second chapter, about we're in the time of the 10 toes, part iron and part clay, which is partly strong and partly weak, which is a divide. You got something called the pigs of Europe, man. Okay, what's that? Portugal, Ireland, Greece and Spain. Okay, and I believe there's another one. I don't know if Italy's a part of it. Portugal. In fact, let me just type it in because I don't want to butcher it. All right, the pigs of Europe. All right, yeah. Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain. A derogatory acronym from the Eurozone crisis for countries with high debt/deficits. All right. So, you know, partly strong and economically too. Partly economically strong, part economically weak. All right. And they're allied with America. All right. See, America, you know, is the whore that rideth upon the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. And the beast represents NATO and the EU. All right. So this is economic divide. There's military strength. Divisions happening. All right. Oh, you're not strong enough to, you know, Greenland's not strong enough to defend their territory from the Russians and the Chinese. All right. So Trump's talking about going in there, and Europe don't like that. So there's a lot happening right now, man. There's division in Esau's kingdom. His empire is crumbling.
World in
And the scripture says a kingdom divided shall not be able to stand.
which dependencies are ruthlessly weaponized. And it is for all these reasons that a new Europe must emerge.
A new Europe is what they're calling the fight against Donald Trump's movement to take over Greenland.
Yeah, and I didn't even know he was going to say that, man. All right, I didn't even know he was actually going to go into that. All right, but that's the spirit. Like, you know, this is what's happening. So we got to be watching. All right, we're in a very, very exciting time. We're in a time of war. We're not in a time of peace, in case you didn't know. You know, and things are definitely being shaken up out here. All right, it's a beautiful time indeed. Okay, let me go ahead and get this precept. Kingdom divided. Oh, what the fuck, man? It's Satan. What the hell is going on here? Kingdom divided. If I just type in able to stand. No, that's not it. Satan. Let me just type in cast out Satan. Right, let's get Matthew chapter 12, verse 25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. All right. Oh, look at the NLT. Woo, this is crazy. I didn't even know it was going to say that. Oh my goodness. Listen to this. Matthew 12 and 25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and replied, any kingdom divided by civil war is doomed. Oh, look at that. And what do we have here on this thumbnail? All right, Civil War 2.0. Unrest in America, man. So this is, come on, man, it's doomed. And the scriptures speak about the day of doom. It says a town or a family splintered by feuding will fall apart. And if Satan is casting out Satan, he is divided and fighting against himself. His own kingdom will not survive. Man, the NLT drops it hard with it. Matthew 12 and 25. So that's, hey, man, this kingdom's doomed. All right, it's over for this man's kingdom. It's over. All right, civil war. Anyway, with that, man, wow, I'm gonna close. I think we can close out on that. I think that was that's the point that was made. And Lord willing, you were edified with this video. To the next time, shalom to the elect.